from wherever you are joining us. First, I have to say many thanks that I may present my work on this occasion. Today, I will talk about conceptual photography. My plan is to attract their interest in this photographic workflow. First comes the idea, then you think about the way to realize it, and then you go out with the pictures. Normally, I work on long-term projects in urban surroundings. But how is my workflow, my own workflow? If you ask a friend of mine, he might answer, oh, Volker is standing at a corner waiting for somebody with a red jacket. That sounds a bit funny, but it is quite true. Because when I go out, I'm first looking for a scene, a background, any area where I might realize my idea. And then I'm waiting. I'm waiting that something will happen. Walking and waiting, that's my motto. Normally, I always have, for each of my projects, I have an initial picture. These pictures are sometimes photographed a little by accident, but when I look at it, and then it might trigger a plan to keep working on this idea, to continue keeping working on this idea. The first project I would like to present now is Underground. The initial picture was that man on the escalator. That is done with a 12mm wide angle lens. At that time, one of my favorite lenses, but that was still analog, as you can see on the quality. And then after I've thought about this picture at home, as I asked myself, how are people moving in the tunnels and underground train stations? How do they behave? That's a story with a red jacket again, in this case a red sweater. I'm a spectator in this work who tries to document the behavior of the passengers and users of the underground system. I think the guy with the red jacket made it. Very often I was asked, how can you achieve that you only have, in this work, you only have one or two persons in the picture? The first thing is choose a station a bit offside the center. You should avoid these crowded areas downtown. And then you wait until the train, the last train has left. Everybody's in the train and the platform becomes empty. And then after a few moments, the first people are arriving, and then it's your moment to take pictures with only one or two persons included. Here in this one, you can see nicely how the air pressure is produced by the train, by the incoming train, with her waving skirt over. This was a little bit funny thing. I had initially the idea to photograph these chairs together with a background pattern and a train. But then I've seen the lady here coming from the left, and she has a stick and she walks pretty slowly. And then I'm hearing the train coming from the right, and I ask, oh ma'am, please do me a favor, one step more, another step more. Okay, that's now perfect. And I had her in my picture, and I think that worked out very well. Normally, if I photograph somebody, I talk to them afterwards and try to get the address to send the picture via mail or even via print. But she was just waiting for that train, walked in, and then she left. As in my later work, I try in this project as well to combine some attractive areas and architecture situation with the behavior of the passengers. And here, there's an attractive situation as well, one man and the moving train. Oops. That's not for me, the music. Okay, this one, this must be an older picture. You know why? I think he's reading a book. Normally everybody taps on his tablet or on his smartphone. So then I was standing beside him, and in the moment the train arrived, I made my shot, and I was pretty lucky. I have him perfectly with the book, but here on the right side, I got the guy with the blue jacket and the yellow sweater. Now I normally work in the RAW format, and I can present it here that it's quite useful. When I made this, when I've done this picture, the front of the train, the cockpit of the train was black, but my idea was to get a good view onto the driver as well. So I made two developments later and combined these two pictures that we can see the driver and that we can see the rest of the scenery. If you're doing a shot like that, of course, you have to talk to the people before, because I was sitting very close to him with a wide angle lens. And then I asked him to look in this direction, following the running train. And I had the impression if you are just talking to the people and not making secret shots or anything, they very often will cooperate. They will work with you and they find it funny, and a little bit they feel important that they're in the picture right now. Here again, the situation, the train has left. She was a bit late, and the train has already accelerated, is already accelerating, but I really got a nice shot of her with a moving train, and she was just waiting, framed by the two big columns there. Now we are getting up to the surface, and to this picture, I would like to tell a little story. That was an underground train station in Singapore. And in Singapore, normally the making of pictures is prohibited. But it was really a great area. I thought on this escalator, I had to photograph. So I put on my tripod, camera on it, camera bag. So I was really present in the area. And then a security guard approaches, and he talked to a young couple which were photographing themselves. And then he talked to them and sent them away because photography is prohibited. And then I said, okay, to run away, it was too late. He came to me, but I had my two ID cards strapped around my neck. One is the FIAP Life card, and one was a UPI ID at that time, both with a picture on it. And he came to me, saw the IDs hanging from my neck. He looked at my picture, identified me, and then he said, okay, so where are you from? Oh, I said, from Germany. Okay, have a nice day. So I would really like to say that these cards are not bad. If the situation is a bit unclear, then it's with a card, you can prove that you're not a terrorist, that you're an amateur from your own country, from your home country, and that you are just doing some pictures on a non-commercial purpose. That helps very often. Okay, the idea of the combination of architecture and people was consequently followed by me on the second big project. It is called Cool City, People on Stage. The basic idea in this work is that architectural structures are created by people for people. And the initial picture in this work is an exhibition hall in Tokyo. Again, with my 8mm lens, with my 12mm lens, sorry, I was up to some architectural shots. But then on the right side, I saw a lady. She was pretty nervous because on the left side was the entrance of an underground train station. And I think she was in a hurry to catch the train. And I waved and said, come on, I have time, just pass by me. And then she started to run. And the moment, I don't know why, by instinct, just to try, I raised the camera, made a few shots. And when I developed that film later on, that was still analog as well, I found the picture with a lady much more exciting than without. And so I thought, and I decided to continue work on this aspect. And though the appearance of the person in the picture is relatively small, they are always governing the scene. The people and the architectural structures are entering a symbiotic relationship. If you eliminate one of them, the picture comes empty and the picture itself doesn't function anymore. Here again, I saw a short story. This is a shopping center in Berlin, Berlin-Marzahn. And the opening was empty. And I was together with some photographic friends of my photo club. And I was complaining a bit, it's empty there, and I couldn't make the picture I would like to. And then a friend of mine, Holger is his name, has to live in a wheelchair. And he said, okay, if you wait some minutes, I can try to get up. All right, I said, good, would be a great idea. And then we waited. And after some time, he appeared in the opening up there. And he shouted, hey, Volker, what shall I do? Okay, then I directed him a little bit by shouting back. The view of him and especially the hand on the rail was important for me. And that became one of my most successful pictures there. These pictures have a cool, sometimes a really sterile character, as if they are a bit out of our world. Sometimes these sceneries look a little bit like the stage setup. Therefore, that is the title of the work, Cool City People on Stage. This is the Tower of Silence in the Jewish Museum in Berlin. And it's a really impressive building there. It is very narrow, almost dark, but the light here in the ceiling, and they let only 2 or 3 people in at the same time because the room there is really limited. And the idea is to relax a bit and to reflect the things you have seen before. And then this man here came in. He was an American and he stood there. And then I asked, oh sir, I'm doing here some shots. Can you please raise your head and look to the light? Then he said, why? And as answered, because the light reflects now in your spectacles. It is difficult to see that in the small size here, but if you have an exhibition print, it is quite noticeable. That's another successful picture of mine. It is called Gray Man. That was an exhibition area of some industrial lightings. And I had the permission to make pictures there, but it was really crowded. And then I asked one of the salesmen, is there any chance that you act as a model for me for moments? Actually, I have no time. Okay, I give you 60 seconds. What shall I do? All right, please sit down. And everything is prepared. I had my camera prepared. It was standing on a tripod. The exposure was set and I made a few shots. And then he jumped up and left because he has some customers. And this picture here is not really perfect because he's not just sitting here in the middle. And when I've seen that later on, I thought it would be easy to cut him out and move over to the left a bit, but I have the impression if these pictures are too perfect, then nobody will believe about them. And therefore I said, okay, this is a little creative break. I think it makes it a little bit more authentic. And that was one of my most successful pictures as well. Now you understand how I do my work here. Stairs without people is impossible for me. Everything, I have always the impression everything is empty, because if somebody creates it for people, then you have to see the people in there. Again, here that is a bridge in the government area of Berlin, and without the communicating couple, it would be a dead picture. That was funny. I saw this facade and then the two people there, and then I waved with my camera because I would get a little permission to make a shot there. And then they looked at me, they looked at each other, they laughed, and they looked back at me again. But in the meantime, I got my shot and I was really satisfied there, and I think they're quite at the proper position. So it is not important what architectural structure you are including in your picture. It mustn't be a famous building or anything. The most important thing is just the combination of person and the architecture. Here, this guy is a stylish man, stylish calf, good looking, firm view here. And he's just crossing a small bridge with this little monument in his back, and the whole thing, though he is pretty small presented, but he is covered and framed by this art project, and then the whole picture fits very well for him. Sometimes I have to use a little regie. This was a monument, an exhibition in the Museum of Modern Art in Frankfurt. But you can imagine when I was in that room with all the same pictures on the wall, it was strange as by itself, but again, it was empty. And then I asked my wife, that's my wife there, Sabine, do me a favor. Can you stand there for a moment? And she knows me since, in the meantime, 40 years, and she knows I always need a victim and a protagonist in my pictures. So she stood there, and I think with a person, it works out quite fine. It is overexposed by purpose. The reason is to have a pretty impression, a little bit out of our world. This here should be overexposed, only lights, only lighting with the shadows included there. And that is really a bit not from our world here in the moment. The optical impression gives it, but the exposure is still well enough to keep the colors here on the main model, on the lady who walked by. When I started my photographic work many years ago, and I think it's the same with you all, somebody told me I would never put anything red in the background. But I think here it's an important point because you can see the depth of the room. You can really feel the structure of the room because of the small figure in the red shirt in the background. I always look for dominant colors. Red attracts me, and if somebody is passing by in a red jacket, that's a really success for me as a photographer. Again, the red skirt here, this makes the picture, but the most important thing, that is the Folkwang Museum in Essen, normally these are glass walls here, and you can look through. But if the sun is too bright, they're letting down some curtains, and then this mirror effect will appear, and then you can see everybody who's walking here with his mirror picture, with his mirror image over there. And perhaps you can notice the couple who is standing here, and they actually are standing at this display area here, and you're outside of my frame. At that time, I was really a fan of vertical panorama views, and I think it's quite impressive. When I saw the building with this strong mirror effect, I was rushing there. That is in Dubai. And then I saw the motorcycle here and said, oh, yeah, that looks good. The green and the blue, that matches quite fine. And that appears to be a delivery service or anything like that. And from the guys who are driving these motorcycles are always on the run. And I thought something must happen within a short time. And I waited, and then I saw a little movement here in the back of the door, and split of a second later, this guy appears, and I had only one shot to really get him in this frame, and he perfectly matches with his motorcycle. The library, the Central Library of Paris, we were on a photographic trip with a club there, has 4 of these buildings standing in a square. And I already said I'm looking for colorful color dominance. And I saw the lady in her pink outfit, and I moved to her, sat a little bit in the back. But she was lying on the ground, the head down on the wood, and was reading something. So that wasn't the picture I was interested in. And then again, my motto, I waited. And then after this boy here shouted something to his father, in the moment she looked up and everything was prepared again, I pressed the shutter and got one successful shot. Businessman in Paris, in La Défense. And here, my wife again in a red trousers. So a wife or a girlfriend or a photographer always must wear red trousers, blue jacket, yellow shirt, and something in green, and a colorful scarf or anything, that she might become a model for all colorful situations over there. Okay, that was a stairway, and I would like to do the shot with a stairway with this color point here, the trousers. But then this girl passed by. That isn't our daughter, but is a foreign girl, rushed by and opened the door. And after I've done the shot, I realized that she exactly wears the same color as my wife here. Lucky. This photo I wouldn't dare to do right now. This is in New York. But before the 11th of September, thereafter, these policemen are becoming always nervous. If somebody approaches with a camera, or if you are photographing any buildings or anything like that. And so to do a shot like that would be impossible in order not to impose some angry policeman. If somebody knows something about working safety, you can look at the children's swing boards here where they're sitting on. That is in China, and they were hanging on one cable winch. And when they have cleaned one story, then somebody let them down one further down. And so I had to wait for a moment until I got the good balance of the yellow buckets, the blue shirts, and the facade of the building. That's quite known as well, this picture. This is a museum of modern art in Frankfurt. And the important thing is these very light and soft coloring ceiling over there. So nothing done with the computer, the color is like that. And it is very softly lighted by a window which is here in the upper area of the upper floor. There was lucky again. The color fits, but the person didn't. I have this picture, that's a shopping center, that's a food market in Newark somewhere. And I have this picture with people, old ones, young ones, children with strollers, anything, but I wasn't really satisfied. And then I saw somebody in a red shirt. And after I've done the shot, I noticed that not only the shirt matches with the door, but his cart matches with the color of the bench here. And if you look at an exhibition print, even the application here on his flip-flops is red as well. Again, a very small figure governs the whole picture. If you're eliminating her, you have just a documentary shot of that building. And this is here my last thing on that work. Everything is wrong from the classical tradition of photography here, because that guy is sitting on the left side. Normally, even in European and American areas, you expect him to be here. And if he is sitting here, he should look into that direction, or if he is sitting here, he should look in that direction. But anyway, quite often uses these creative breaks in order to make the picture a little bit more exciting. And the spectators and visitors of exhibitions or readers of a book are a little bit more attentive about pictures which do not please them right away. If you see a nice and perfect shot, you're forgetting it at the same time. But if there's something wrong with it, what they mean, they're discussing about it. But you must be careful not to put in any real mistakes or just a break. After I worked now with a combination of people and architecture here, my view to the people come to the fore. And from now on, the imagination of the spectator plays a bigger role. This is called Quo Vadis, everybody finds his way. I watch people during their daily routine. This work has two aspects. One is the way of life, and one is the physical way. The work starts with a young couple just married, and they are beginning their common way. And the second picture shows the physical way. This cross of the escalators topping the walking guy, I think is a good idea where modern ways lead to. Here, but two people are leaving the room, and now the imagination of the spectator comes into effect, because you don't know where they are going to. They obviously don't belong together, and both are going their own way, and you don't know where they are going to. If you are including some work of another artist in your picture, everything must fit a bit so that a new artwork is created with your photography. If you are only making a picture, let's say, of this graffiti girl here, that would be just a documentary shot and you cannot use it for anything. But the people you are including in these sceneries must be a little bit authentic. Everything must fit together. And I think that this lady fits quite well. She has this red colored hair, shaven head there, colorful leggings, then you can ask the question, who is the little kid in the back? Does it belong to her? Is it just alone? Who is he? Looks a bit angry, walks. So this is one of the pictures which create more questions than it answers. Perhaps one thing I would like to point out, here is a big white area in the background of the picture, and it's very important that there is something in there. If that would be totally white, it would draw the attention right away, draw the attention from the protagonists here in the picture. Therefore, this is quite useful that you can see something in there. That guy looks angry, but lately he was rather friendly. Where is she going? Where is the guy cycling to? In this work, I often use tunnels and pathways in order to define the way, the physical way of my protagonists. And now I have an example for a classical picture or a creative break. This lady stands at the proper position, and this lady is leaving the picture. So perhaps I was satisfied with this picture, but I think this here is more exciting and more interesting, and it answers more questions. Where is she going? What will she do? An arrow always leads, or always helps to find the proper direction. And the important thing in this picture here is the yellow helmet. I had that's a train station in Dubai with a yellow roof on top, and I thought I have to have something in there. And I have red cars, people dressed in red, but nothing fits properly. And then the guy comes on the way home shaking his helmet, and that's my picture at that moment. Close encounter. And here you see how important it is if the people are fitting in the scenery. This area has a certain expression, and the lady has a certain expression by herself. The blue skirt matches here, her scarf here with the wooden parts, and her jacket here in these areas. So she is colorful, positioned in there perfect. There's nothing technical done in this picture. The only thing is I lost about at least half an hour of my lifetime before she was. Now we come a bit to the way of life in the physical way. I think this young family here has a pretty difficult way of life. The father's sitting in a wheelchair, but they lovingly care about their kid. And I think they're making their life, and the way of life is okay. This must be a panorama shot. It was a very close area. I couldn't get really backwards because I'm standing with my back to the other wall, to the opposite wall. And so I decided to make two shots out of it and match them together with a stitching program. This one was pretty easy here. I just had to wait that somebody's rushing up the stairs. But this was pretty difficult. I would like to have somebody coming down the stair in connection with a musician on the right. And then I saw him really busy with his pad. And in the moment he was here, this guy passes from the left and kneels down, bends down to give him some money. And then he made two more steps further to me than I originally wanted. But anyway, I think this three-person combination and arrangement is quite okay. I was up to the colorful suitcase, but a running boy made the picture. It's never too dark to be cool, but for the excuse, she was heading to the exit of this dark area. You can see the light in her glasses. Going back up, in order not to keep that too empty, I included this spraying here. That's the same thing here. I included the poster on the left side in order to keep a balance due to the persons I was up for on the right side. Anybody knows who Lindemann is? That's a singer of Rammstein. It's a German band. Way of Life. Jesse, stay with me, somebody happens. In combination with a girl, gives quite a story. Of some kind, but he's only a cool guy. You can see that at his glasses, and he's just watching in the center of Munich. He's just watching people rushing and wasting their time. Now I would like to present some aspects of street photography. Many of these pictures I've showed you so far is street photography in the general definition, but I would like to point out a few things which are important. It has really numerous aspects, and always I try to work out pretty striking views. I approach all people, I approach them with respect and restraint, and I never press them. If they find it okay to be photographed, okay, I'm glad I do the shot. If not, then I apologize and go away. But as a street photography has such a huge amount of aspects and themes, you have to concentrate on a small part of it in order not to be arbitrary. Here I've chosen some public areas in Frankfurt at a special time. The first lights are coming in the late afternoon, and I have always a leading person or anything leading in the picture. Here the guy on the scooter. Same thing, the lights in the shopping area to the right and the person with the working clothes on. The bicycle and the guy who photographs his family. Or you can choose a really small area in the town. The next shots are made around the Frankfurt train station, and it's a little bit difficult area there. A lot of people have their own businesses, and they actually are not really fond of a photographer. So you have to meld with the surrounding. Not a big camera, just a little camera, one lens, no bag, or only a small one. And then you have to move. You always have to be on the move. You cannot wait until something happens. You have to pass by, and then you have to do your photography. The area around the Frankfurt main station is a little bit tricky, especially at night time. And if you are not known there, you better don't go there. You can go there, but don't make pictures. That might become a little dangerous. You can concentrate on sports downtown. Here the kid. If you're lucky to find a sport field within a living area, might become a picture. Or here a shot in in a suburb of Tokyo. And the houses are staying so close, they even have put a net on top of it in order to prevent the ball hitting some of the windows. What you can do is concentrate on a number of people. In this case, a group of 3 or 2 or even 1. You can make a series with 1, 2, and 3, make different chapters out of it or different parts in your exhibition. Or you can concentrate on stylish people. Very often you really find people who are dressed unusually. That's a stylish couple as well, I think. And here again, black and white and color. It's, from my standpoint, it's not really advisable to mix them too often. You can make in your exhibition 1 room black and white, 1 room color, or 1 chapter color and 1 chapter black and white. But if you're mixing that all the time, it disturbs a bit your spectators. 2 stylish girls in Munich are in the Hamburg University, or an elegant lady in Tokyo. You can concentrate on mobility, people on cycles, bicycle, if you are going out downtown to do some photography, please concentrate only on one subject. You have the idea and then work with it. If you are photographing a cyclist, a girl, a car, and a tower, you cannot concentrate you properly. You cannot focus your eyes to these subjects, to these themes, because they are too different. But if you're going out just for taking shots of cyclists, you will see them and then you can photogram them well. Another thing you can do is building up some series. Here, this one is called Alone. And I have put in, like a small exhibition, people who seem to be alone. This guy is on a rest in a lobby of an office building. Here's a complete picture. This is kind of a mirror in the door of the elevator. And this guy here, I don't know whether he is sitting underneath the stairway, but I bought him a coffee and then I could do my shot. Or you are taking the same background and look what happens before. Here it was raining in Japan. I was sitting with 2 friends in an opposite cafe. And so I was sitting in a dry area and had all the time to let people pass by. And the most difficult part is to choose 8 pictures out of about 50. You can go to the backyards. That's a little bit running because very often backyards are closed. You have to find an open one and you have to find an interesting one. That is much more difficult. And as always, without people, I have problems. This work is called Metropolis. That's a reminiscence of the movie of Fritz Lang, beginning of the last century. Here, the idea is people are melting in the mass. You cannot identify them anymore. If you really see them, you see only shadows. Or if you see them up front, they are overwhelmed by architecture or these close-up surroundings. You can concentrate on photographing people from a special side. So in this case here from the left, I've tried to get them in a profile profiles in Berlin-Kreuzberg. Everybody is sitting there, everybody has something to do, and then that makes the combination here. And this is the last one. This is called The Dolphin Goes Home. This is a dolphin here. And then I have found some pictures where people obviously are leaving the scene. When I was in a vacation in Thailand a few times, I have seen, I have had the idea to make a photographic series about all the girls and boys, mostly men, came here for. That is the initial picture. I just made it passing by, and then on my next vacation, I went in there and tried to do some shots to give these boys and girls forum. This is a typical walking street in Pattaya. And then you see them well dressed, and the spectators and the guests are very often a little bit overweight, badly dressed, sometimes they are drunken. And anyway, this was a boy before. This is not this is only a price list of the drinks. Pole dancing club, pretty difficult. Everything costs. If you want to do pictures there, you cannot just go in and say, okay, big equipment and I'm a photographer and I do some pictures here. You have to, again, you have to meld a little bit with the situation. Sit down at one of these bars, order a drink, perhaps you invite somebody for a drink. It's not really expensive. And then you can communicate with them, and then they don't have anything against the picture. While this guy is standing on these kind of shoes, I didn't find out. I think that these shoes fitting her better. Negotiation, whatever for. And you can, if you look into her face, you can imagine 6 hours or so on these kind of shoes exhaust the body. She is really tired, 2 o'clock in the morning, end of a shift. I sometimes make smaller works. Waiting for the bus, we had a newspaper article about the bad connection of our rural areas here where I stay. And then I had the idea, okay, I go out and looking for bus stops. Okay, this is a sad situation, but it's a leading picture there, waiting for the bus. Looks a little bit like Hotel California. You see, there are some strange areas where a bus should come, and they are not stopping there very often. This work will be presented in a work of our whole group, and this is called Lighting at Night. All right, now I have given you quite of the number of examples how to develop an idea that you could work on for a while, so that you are able to produce enough pictures for an exhibition or a book. And very often, if you're working on such a subject, you might create any really good ones for competitions also. But now I will end with some ideas what we can do in these awful and critical times. As many of you know, I'm in a photo club, the Fotogruppe Bickenbach. That's a German photo club here, quite successful. And we did meet as well since March. And then we have the idea to do certain photographic projects there, which don't have the necessity that you are going out, but you can do that from your work you have still in your archive or in an archive, and that one is called Squares. This is something Andy Warhol has initiated many years ago. He includes smaller squares in a big one, like Marilyn, or the Campbell soup. But in my idea, it was a soup, it was a grilled sauce. And the idea is that the background colors, you will find them in the bottle. Or a collection of sewing threads. The difficult part was during the photography of these things to organize where the yarn is leaving the picture. That makes a good combination later in this little tableau. All right, as a former pilot, I have something to do with aircraft still. And I thought, what about aircraft from the top? Actually, that wasn't really completely my idea. I've seen once a work of some freight ships photographed from a bridge and then put together with a stitching program. And what do you think? Is that true or is that fake? Okay, it's fake, of course. Even me cannot get up of a 747 in such a position to make a picture on a symmetrical view. So these are models, of course. But I think the optical effect is quite okay. If you walk through the woods here in the area, freshly cut woods with the blue markings of the laborers in order to organize the transport later on. That's a bench from different sides. Or you can combine even people sitting on the same bench, not at the same time. You can do 4 of them, or even 9. Or if you are patient, 16. So far, I have 20. And my idea is to present the best of them in part of an exhibition in smaller sizes. Let's say about 30 to 30 centimeters or 40 by 40, depends a little bit on the exhibition room, and to cover a complete wall with it so that people can go there and look at each picture to find out what just happens there. Or you can play around a little bit with colors and shapes, and perhaps you will find somebody who looks a little bit more friendly than this character there. Another thing, in order to make photography a little bit easier, is a picture of the day. The basic idea of it is that we are presenting simple motives, but in a proper way. Photograph your daily life. Nothing more, nothing special, nothing complicated. Sunset at the background of my terrace, or an attention sign, not in order to hit your head, walking through the woods, or a left bird's case. That fish is out of my bathroom. It's about 10 centimeters high only. If you have made it to the top, you can prove it with a picture. Or in the afternoon or in the evening, a glass of wine. And everybody tells me I have to cover my nose and my mouth, and perhaps that might be a proper idea for that. And this is one of our top mountains here. This little village is called Alsbach. That's where I live. I'm sitting over here in the moment. And this one is Bickenbach. That's where my photo club is. So the idea is every day on our homepage will appear one of these shots from my photographic friends, from the club, and from me. Or you go downstairs somewhere for a restroom or toilet, and upstairs you can take a picture of the staircase. Or a dry leaf would be a motive as well. And now I have a thing I might dare to introduce to GPU. These are the pairings. Normally, if you make picture pairings, the pictures must fit perfectly. You have two pictures put together which really look almost alike. But with this idea, it's a bit different because we want to have a communication between two photographers which cannot see or which cannot meet in the moment. So author A, in this case Joachim, sends a picture with a little sentence to me. I'm author B in the moment. And he writes, always ahead. That is the shadow here. And then I have a week time to answer this picture I get from him. And I have written, make sure heading for the same direction. Can be advisable not to run too far away from your own shadow. That's a true picture, not a composer. Or I have sent a picture to Hans. It's time to go home. And he answers, nobody's here anymore. You know that picture already? I don't know what happens here in the moment with these markings. No?
Somebody making note, maybe. Either you or somebody else. Okay.
The question was, is the bus still coming? And Wolfgang answers, sure, but there are no seats left. You see, these two pictures won't match together if you are putting them on a tableau in a classical picture pairing work. But with a sentence, is the bus coming? Yeah, but no seats left. Then it makes a story out of it. And that is the idea. And you don't have to create new pictures. You can just use what you have. And that is quite helpful in this situation. The end of something, here is a little figure, that's a girl who is leaving this man, obviously, in a dark and dull area. The end of something, and I answered, can have something liberating, because he is sitting in a bright sunlight waiting for new things to come. So a little story again.
Sorry, somebody has shared his screen, so we can see these green lines. Please check your screens, not to be shared. Sorry, Volker, continue.
No
please.
problem. That is okay. I'm almost at the end of my presentation. Hans sent me a picture with the question, something is coming. I think he's up to the weather. And I answered with my flash here, definitely something is coming. Or no future. That is the question of the young couple on the left. And I answer as a statement, we are the world and we are the future, the three young people having fun together. So this might be a project we can do in GPU because it has no limits in the borders or anything. I can send that to China, or from Arabia, somebody sends anything to me. It just should be a little bit organized. And from these things, you can make tableaus and open and put them on the homepage, for instance, so that anybody can see it. If you want to see more of these, on these 3 works, I just have shown you now my pictures. But with Fotogruppe Bickenbach, you will find on the front page, you will find links to all these 3 projects, and you will find the picture of the day. And you are free to copy these ideas. And at the end of my presentation, that was done by me at the high Corona time here in Germany in April and May. I have put together some pictures I've done last year in Paris. The bistro is closed. Nobody dares to walk outside. And then, with a little care, to be careful, first girl is appearing. And then we can sit again in a restaurant, but far from each other. Always one table is between them. Okay, and here he is daring to walk around. Okay, as it's put on last year, of course, we are not wearing masks at that time. But here, groups may be sitting together, and I hope that we all may meet in such a restaurant or in such a bar in the near future.
Coronavirus days.
Yeah. Okay, and now this is the end of my presentation. I thank Manolis for inviting me, of course, and Saad for the technical support who makes that possible. And now I'm open for questions of any kind.